One night, Tunde's anger reached a boiling point. He forced himself on Omolara, disregarding her protests. To his shock and anger, he found no blood, which led him to believe she had lied about her virginity. Tunde was a well-known playboy in the city. Handsome and charming, he had always been able to attract women effortlessly. But after a series of casual relationships that left him unfulfilled, he decided it was time to settle down. He chose Omolara, a village girl, as his wife. She was different from his usual type. She wasn't curvy or glamorous. Instead, she had a warm smile, an aura of modesty, and exceptional cooking skills that drew him in. Omolara, on the other hand, was shy and inexperienced. She had never been with a man before, having lived a sheltered life in her village. Her virginity was one of the reasons Tunde was drawn to her. He believed that her purity would be the foundation of a perfect marriage. After their wedding, Tunde eagerly brought Omolara to the city. He was excited to consummate their marriage. However, when the time came, Omolara refused to be intimate with him. Her fear of sex was rooted in a traumatic experience from her past. When she was 12 years old, she had been gang raped on her way back from an exam. This horrific event left her deeply scarred, and she had struggled with severe anxiety and fear about sex ever since. Tunde, unaware of Omolara's past, became increasingly frustrated. He didn't understand why his new wife was rejecting him. His frustration turned into anger, and he began threatening her. He said that if she didn't give him what he wanted, he would find pleasure elsewhere. Omolara was terrified and couldn't bring herself to reveal the truth about her past. Only her mother knew about the rape and had been urging Omolara to confide in Tunde. One night, Tunde's anger reached a boiling point. He forced himself on Omolara, disregarding her protests. To his shock and anger, he found no blood, which led him to believe she had lied about her virginity. His rage was uncontrollable. He slapped Omolara and accused her of being a prostitute, claiming she had married him only for his wealth and status. From that day, Tunde's behavior towards Omolara changed drastically. He treated her with contempt, keeping her at a distance. She was relegated to the role of a maid in their home. Their once promising marriage was now filled with distance, anger, and pain. As time went on, Omolara decided to take drastic measures. She wanted to save her marriage and believed that having a child might bring them closer. One evening, Tunde came home drunk, and Omolara saw an opportunity. Despite her fear, she forced herself on him, hoping to become pregnant. Months later, Omolara discovered she was pregnant. She showed Tunde the pregnancy test, expecting him to be overjoyed. Instead, he was enraged. He accused her of infidelity, claiming she had slept with other men and was now trying to pin the pregnancy on him. He even said she had raped him while he was drunk, unable to consent. The situation became even more strained. Tunde's cruelty escalated. He began bringing women from his office to their home, flaunting them in front of Omolara. He withheld money and affection, leaving her isolated and destitute. Omolara turned to her mother for support, who provided her with financial assistance and emotional comfort. Eventually, Tunde demanded that Omolara leave his house. He no longer wanted her around. Omolara's parents intervened, urging Tunde to reconsider and work on their marriage. They reminded him of his vows to love and cherish Omolara, and that he couldn't simply abandon her. Omolara, desperate to save their relationship, made one final effort. She prepared a heartfelt dinner, using her own money to buy the ingredients. She cooked Tunde's favorite meal, hoping to soften his heart. As they sat down to eat, she knelt beside him and finally revealed her past. She told him about the gang rape, the fear, and the shame she had lived with. She explained why she had kept it a secret before their marriage. But Tunde was unforgiving. He felt betrayed that Omolara had hidden such a significant part of her past from him. He was outraged that she had lied to him about her virginity. The revelation shattered his perception of their marriage. Omolara eventually gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. She was filled with joy at their arrival, but was heartbroken when Tunde didn't even come to the hospital. When the doctors needed someone to sign a consent form for an emergency operation, Tunde refused, saying he wasn't responsible for the pregnancy. He told them to call the person who had impregnated her and then blocked their calls. Omolara was devastated. She had to call her younger brother from the village to sign the consent form, and he had to undergo an emergency operation to deliver the twins. After the birth, Omolara's mother came from the village to help care for her and the babies. Despite the support from her mother, Tunde remained absent. Even when his own mother came to celebrate the birth of her grandchildren, Tunde didn't show up. One day, Tunde came home with a beautiful woman and a young girl. He announced that they would be living with them from now on. He introduced the woman as his new partner and the girl as her daughter. Omolara was shocked and heartbroken. Tunde began treating Omolara like a servant, forcing her to cook and clean for his new partner and her daughter. Omolara's mother-in-law tried to intervene, but Tunde refused to listen. Omolara's own mother advised her to endure and stay in the marriage, as she disapproved of divorce. As time went on, Omolara's situation grew more desperate. Her children didn't have enough clothes, and her mother had to rely on hand-me-downs to dress them. Tunde did not provide for his family, and Omolara struggled to make ends meet on her own. Despite the hardships, Omolara tried to hold on to her marriage, hoping for change. But Tunde continued to distance himself, both physically and emotionally. Omolara eventually found a way to support herself and her children by selling akara, fried bean cakes, in front of their house. She worked hard and managed to get attention from some men, but she refused their advances. A kind woman, impressed by Omolara's decency and work ethic, offered her a job as a secretary in her office. Omolara accepted and worked diligently for 3 months, earning enough money to pay her children's school fees. Meanwhile, Tunde's new wife's daughter fell ill and needed a blood transfusion. During this process, it was discovered that Tunde could not donate blood because their blood types didn't match. This revelation led to a confrontation, and Tunde's new wife admitted that the girl wasn't actually Tunde's daughter. She had been using him for his money and wealth. Tunde was devastated. He realized he had been deceived. His new wife had never loved him and had only been interested in his wealth. The betrayal was a harsh blow. He had supported her and her family only to be used. Feeling confused and regretful, Tunde decided to check himself at a hospital, discovering that an accident he had during his National Youth Service Corps (NYSC) days had left him with a 70-30 chance of impregnating a woman. Tunde's realization made him reconsider everything. He thought about Omolara and their children. He had previously accused Omolara of infidelity and deceit, but now he was unsure of everything. He decided to confront Omolara, only to find that she had disappeared. Despite his efforts to locate her, Omolara had moved on with her life and refused to take his calls. Filled with anger and regret, Tunde began stalking Omolara and their children. A friend informed him that Omolara was with another man, which drove Tunde to extreme actions. He kidnapped the children, but a DNA test confirmed they were indeed his. Overcome with regret and sadness, Tunde realized the gravity of his mistakes. He had mistreated his family, and now they wanted nothing to do with him. Omolara took him to court, where she was granted full custody of the children. Tunde was heartbroken. Despite his pleas to Omolara's mother, he was denied access to his children. In the end, Omolara found happiness with a single father she had met. They built a loving family together and lived happily ever after. Tunde, on the other hand, was left alone, his life in ruins. His past mistakes haunted him, and he found himself isolated, with no one willing to be with him. He was left to pick up the pieces of his shattered life, reflecting on the consequences of his actions.